Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 319. It is the third day of the week, aka the Spirit Bomb workout. I am feeling great, a little earlier than normal, but anyways, to the main subject matter for today. The hobbyist extremist. So, the main reason why I wanted to talk about this was because I think I've mentioned it in a video, I don't remember which one it was, but not that long ago, about taking things to the extreme and stuff like that, or the all or nothing mentality right here. And I mentioned in there that there are people who will go all in on a hobby that they haven't even started yet. So, I want to talk about that because that was something that I was like, I can actually talk about this for a little bit because I've been there. I've done this exact same thing. So I wanted to talk about it and like kind of what drives people to do it, but also examples of it because you can see it everywhere really. People will dip their toe into a hobby and decide they like it, and then all of a sudden they're $10,000 in credit card debt. That's how usually it happens. You know, you spend $5, all of a sudden you're getting a new credit card for this thing. And this isn't the only thing. There are multiple things. I might keep it in the fitness realm. I could keep it in the fitness realm, but I'm gonna just give you a bunch of examples. But I think I'll start off with how I did this personally. I've done this with multiple things. I've dipped my toe into multiple things. I mean, technically, this camera right here, I bought before I had a channel at all. I did have my phone, but I'd hated using it at the gym. So I was like, all right, I'm buying this camera. Now, do I regret this purchase? No, but at the time I was unemployed, so it was not necessarily a smart purchase. But with that being said, though, I eventually did get a job, and I eventually kind of have used this enough for, say, probably 320 plus videos at this point. Yeah, that's good enough to justify the purchase. At this point, if I do 300 more, each video will have costed me $1. So yeah, this has been kind of worth the purchase price, to say the least. But this is just a modicum, a small little smidgen of what people actually do. Now, this camera was not cheap, but it wasn't super expensive. I wouldn't say this was top of the line either. When I bought it, I believe this was $680 with the mic and this carrying case. So that's not the worst out of everything that you could get for what is essentially an all-in-one thing. There are people out there that will be like, oh, I like photography with my iPhone. Oh, I'm going to buy a $3,000 camera and a $2,000 lens immediately after. And then you ask them, oh, what are your presets on Photoshop? And they'll look at you like, Photoshop? And that's when we start with the entire hobbyist extremist. And I think that the people who are like this, they are what these companies pray for, as well as people from the secondhand market as well. So with that being said, we'll get into more detail and talk all about the hobbyist extremist and all that other stuff and give multitudes of examples when we get to Mother Base. All right, so started this day off with 80 press, but anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand here. The hobbyist extremist. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because this is something that I notice in a lot of people, and I think everybody kind of notices it depending on what type of hobbies you get into. The first example or place where I've seen it in multiple ways is when I was a streamer. When getting into streaming, you will see people go either very, very basic bare bones streaming from a phone, or go extreme on the other end where they'll have the highest end quality equipment to the point where it's such a waste when you're not even averaging 5 viewers. It's like to the point where these people will burn out immediately and cause that first initial, that barrier of entry to be so high that even earning $1 would seem like absolutely chump change and or a waste of time, and thus they get out of it. But that's not the only thing that happens when people do this. This is a very much a level issue that happens with all hobbies. Even something like the gym, you get something like, I have this all-in-one trainer, but the thing is it's at home, so there could be a reason where people or a person that starts using it but then slowly progresses away from it because of the fact that they never really established themselves in the
idea of doing said hobby for such a long time. Now, obviously, I love the gym, so this works out for me. But there are people that buy equipment with the intent of using it, but never actually use it. And this isn't just gym equipment, but you can see this with cardio equipment all the time. And that's why you can buy cardio equipment for relatively cheap on things like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. It is the best thing that you can do, because these are the types of people, the hobbyist extremists, who end up getting into a hobby and going all in at the very beginning instead of realizing, hey, am I actually about this life? Do I care enough? Do I want to continue doing this after a certain amount of time? Which is the main thing about this entire video, is dipping your toe in the water and then putting your foot in and slowly getting in, rather than going into the deep end and getting the extreme amounts of stuff. Now, I've been guilty of this, of course. There are certain things that I've bought. For example, this microphone was for when I was streaming, but there are things that you can reuse depending on what you're transitioning from and to. But the other things like brand new treadmill, if you use it once and that's it, you've just lost like $1,000 plus. And I can get it for pennies on the dollar, sometimes even free. And I think that that's the main thing about it, really, personally, is that the companies love these types of people, because they are the people that end up buying these things, because they know that they can sucker people in because of the allure of being into this hobby. I don't know what it is exactly that gets people to dive into the deep end of said hobbies, but when people do it, they really do it all the way. And it's a very interesting dynamic to notice, because they instantly put way too much into the tools of the hobby rather than the hobby itself. And that always causes the issue. It's like you paying absolutely nothing to start streaming and you earn $1, versus the other way around, where you spend $5,000 on a setup and a PC and all this other stuff and earn $1. That $1 for the person that spent absolutely nothing, you're in the green already. You are up already. The other person is still in the red by $4,999. And I think that perspective makes it so that going all in on something at the very beginning, or at least before that, the monetary reasons can come through if you're monetizing your hobby, then it seems pointless in order to go all in until that steady income comes from this hobby. But even if you're not somebody that's coming in from a steady income, let's say it's just something there you want to do an activity. So like, for example, the gym or cardio. When you're doing something like that, you have to pre-establish yourself as to make sure that you are already doing something like that. If you want to buy a treadmill, go for a walk every day, go run outside for a bit, then buy it during the winter time after 8 months of you having a consistent walk/run schedule, something along those lines. And I think that most people would have to get into the consistency level first before they end up upgrading, because I think that a lot of people fall into that beginner's trap of just going all out at the very beginning and then just burning out quickly, because those $4,999 that they still owe to their credit card company is going to be hell to pay back, because they just decided, hey, I got to go all in at the beginning. It's very much a beginner's trap that I think that most people fall for, unfortunately, but you can kind of prevent this as long as you dip your toe in the water and become consistent with whatever the hobby is. I think you can justify these types of purchases later on, whether it be a monetary one or if you've been doing something for long enough, in which case, yeah, the upgrade makes sense. But unless you establish those things, there's no real use in going all in at the very beginning at all. For any real hobby, it doesn't even matter. You look at sports, any type of sports, fitness related thing, streaming, any type of art, anything digital, any music creation, anything like that. You don't really need to go for the high end quality things first. Do they make a difference? Yes, but only at a certain degree do they make a difference. if you are just getting your foot in the door of any of the hobbies, there's absolutely 0 point in going into that end, especially at the beginning. Like, there's no point in me buying $1,000 guitar when I barely know my first 5 chords. There's no point. But there are people that are like that. You got to thank these people that do this, because realistically, those are the types of people that make the secondhand market the beautiful place that it is. But at the same time, try not to be this person as well, because there's nothing worse than having to sell something and take the loss of, like, let's say $1,000 because you bought a treadmill that you thought you were going to use all the time, but instead you're just hoping to God somebody will pick it up for free.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. Hobbyist extremists. Now, this is just looking at people who end up getting into a hobby and then going all the way on the purchasing power that they might have and not really doing the actual baby steps to get into the thing. Most of the time these people end up burning out and or getting rid of the equipment that they get that is basically like studio grade for something that they're not really that invested in. And I think this happens to everybody at a certain point. There was one thing that you thought you were going to get into, you got equipment, and then you just kind of fell out of it immediately, or something happened, like it just wasn't the flavor of the week anymore, or something along those lines. Then you're stuck with something that realistically you're just kind of stuck with. For me personally, I've had a few of those. Music-wise, it's been mostly those things. Thankfully, certain things like that, music-wise, I've been either able to parlay, aka give it back to someone. My brother has a drum machine that he gave me, but luckily he has it, so there's that. A bass that he ended up getting anyway. Things like that where I was just into it. But thankfully as well, there was also a lot of the stuff that you can get off the internet for free. So that kind of helps in certain aspects of things like getting into certain fields. But realistically, because of how technology is nowadays and what you actually need to start most things, realistically, your phone covers like 90% of it. Yes, you can upgrade as time progresses, but realistically, you don't really need much to start anything, really, especially when it comes to content creation or really most hobbies. There are always some type of deal and or thing that you can find. For example, when I was super into Gundams, making them, there was like the ultimate toolkit that you could get. It was called the God Hand. It was awesome, but it was also $50 before the price increase that happened to it. I think it's like $60 now. Yeah, and like model kits, there were multiple levels on it. If you're starting out with that, you would want to start off with a high grade and just like a $20 Amazon kit of a cutter with like a few other tools, because realistically, if you don't like that first one, then what the fuck is the point of going on and upgrading? If I would have bought that God Hand, it would just be sitting here collecting dust, and at that point I would just probably sell it, because I'd be like, this could go to somebody else at a cheaper price. And I think that's what happens at the end of the day with a lot of these people, is that they end up becoming this extremist in one thing, then they drop it, and then they just kind of sell the thing for like half the price. That's why you see so much gym equipment that is on the secondhand market that's so cheap, because people will like use it twice and then there you go. Especially cardio machines. Shit, if you want a cardio machine for free, just go check out Facebook Marketplace and you can find stuff and lowball the shit out of people, because realistically they just want to get rid of it. So if you just say like $20 for a treadmill, boom, that you got a treadmill for $20. It's really that simple. You just have to kind of hunt for it and have a truck or something big that you can take the item with you. Some people will just say fuck it, take it for free, so that's and you just got like a basically brand new treadmill or a brand new bike, things like that. Those things happen because a lot of people end up saying they're going to do something, they buy the equipment, and then just don't do it. So it sucks when that happens too, in a certain way. But also, it is the gate that has been kept in a way, which is a different story for a different day. But with that being said,
Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This is kind of a subject matter that I kindly briefly touched upon in a different video, so I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and opinions about this. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, and stay cool, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!